Now that's cold-blooded.
We'll get into the TA side of things now. I went on a little bit of a tweet storm earlier. And I'll cover off my thoughts with charts as backing versus the intro screen. But that was really done because I was just in the moment and it really wasn't a thought out thread, which is why they were just tweet after tweet. I was just like, oh, I'll say something else. I'll say something else. I think it's probably just, this is one of the more concerning areas of the rally so far. And so I think it's probably just worth being aware of that. Like nothing more than that. But we'll get some charts up and this is the BTC chart before anybody kicks off. This is the BTC chart with the levels. It does also show my current short position, but we can run through from here. From a higher time frame perspective, I think my concern at the moment comes from the fact that we have overextended, and people from the Haven will know this really well, but for the last maybe 10 days or so, like last weekend included, I've been like a little bit cautious around the price action. And the reason being is that the majority of charts have like super extended higher time frame divergences now. You're looking at like daily time frame stuff that shows that for the majority of things, the last couple of highs have been on reducing momentum. Now, we spoke about this in the stream that I did, where we also spoke about the fact that things like AVAX and LTC broke through those divergences, and we were looking for the rest of the market to follow suit, right? And that was really the theme of the last stream, was like how much time we spent discussing like, this is a triple divergence, this could bust through. Here's an example of LTC doing it. Here's an example of AVAX doing it. Here's an example later on in the week of Atom doing it. So plenty of markets that kind of like bust through that structure. And ETH was one that set up really nicely for the potential to do that as well. So if we just grab the ETH chart quickly here, there's another one that was set up really nicely here. So you can see this drop off in momentum here, and you can see the drop off here on the 12-hour as well. So as we were crawling up here, momentum is dropping off. This was a particularly nasty point and looks as though it could be a turnaround. And then we managed to make a fresh high through here. But so far, the fresh high is still on reduced momentum, and the close today really isn't a positive close for kind of that mindset or perspective, because the big red close here is just pulling this RSI back down, which is essentially locking in the divergence. And if you now take the awesome oscillator one that you can see through here, right, it's just going to lock in this high as like a diverging high, and therefore would indicate that there's potentially more downside here. So that's my major concern, and I think a lot of charts are putting in this. Like Sushi is something that's avoided it, but Sushi has a really nice level down here, which we'll get onto in a little bit. We'll go back over to AVAX and an LTC quickly on the higher time frames first as we set the thought process. And you can see that AVAX is a good example of where it did it on the 12-hour. So it was through here. This is the reduction, just like ETH, all the way through these highs here, and you can see it on the awesome oscillator too, and then bang, you get the fresh high. But now this last high here is diverging in exactly the same manner. The problem is it's not just a case of, oh, this is another dip to buy because it's going to do the same thing. Sure, that's one outcome, that it can do the same thing. The problem with a chart like AVAX is that you've now pushed this into an awkward position, right, with these highs and with the daily divergence, especially between these two legs. So you've basically continued the extension, and it makes me more nervous about being a bidder on corrections like we're seeing at the moment. This 6% one on AVAX here and a lot more off the highs. It makes me a lot more nervous about being a bidder at spots like this. BTC, I think, is the kind of the clearest one for now, and I think the 12-hour has just maintained the divergence structure. So you can see from here that, you know, pretty much even this high here, the awesome oscillator and RSI is saying fake. Right? This isn't a strong high, this is a weak high, and therefore looking to correct. And the reason the thread was put out is I get a little bit worried about the way that people have been attacking the market lately, which has been absolutely perfect. Buying any dip has been absolutely perfect. It's been a great strategy. It's been a great approach. The problem is the people who join into that philosophy late and who have only grasped that's what they should be doing, and they look at events like today as opportunities to do that. I think that now you're at a point of this rally where it's a lot harder to be confident in that approach versus when it was 2-3 weeks ago, where it was very much the case of there's a dip, buy it. So with that kind of overall message of basically TLDR, I think there's going to be a greater pullback than the one we're seeing currently. I still think people should be buying whatever the dip is that comes next. Right? I still think that whatever the dip is through here, whatever the flush is, I still think that we should be looking to be buyers of that in the current conditions until the market makes that a situation that we would no longer believe to be the correct play anymore. So there's a couple of interesting regions. The first one is the lows here. So you've got the lows which are like 22.3. I think that if the lows here are taken, you see a really good reaction on BTC, then this is the moment to potentially look at moving back in. And if we get a very strong correction, then I think anything that comes back down towards the 21.1s is probably the interesting region. So if we get something that smashes through this and we trade into the 21.1s, I think this is a really nice area, because this is a nice zone because you have an obvious kind of stopping point down here under the kind of 20.2s. And you're looking for fresh highs, and probably from here the push into 28. So you get a really good trade off this level if it happens. And obviously you're going to get a good trade off this level too, depending on what any wick looks like that comes down through that area. So I'm looking at this level here as the first one. And then the second one, if we get something that's more aggressive than we anticipate, then I think it's down here. I think the mentality of the market is pretty fucked at the moment. I think that everybody is, even today, you know, like tweeting the thread that I tweeted, and then within maybe 5 minutes there were like tweets on the timeline which is about bears saying not to buy again, another buy the dip opportunity, Sunday price action, time to get involved again. Like, I just feel as though, for me personally, this is not the time to be operating. See on the hourly chart here, this is the lowest that the RSI has been on the hourly since basically the lows down here. It's actually since this low. And that's a pretty significant like selling drive that we've seen on BTC. And again, that's also a concern. It's not a positive let's buy the dip here moment for me. If it turned into this, then fantastic, great. We get to play some trades when we're above this level again. But for me, it's more of like a warning that the market has chosen to unleash the selling and push us down to this level, which is the first time it's happened in a significant chunk of time. So it's more of a concern that the hourly RSI has been pushed down to the level that it has been versus some marker of this represents a buying opportunity. If I am looking for a buying opportunity and wrong in the this is the time for the correction thought process, then I think that the daily divergences get blown out to the upside, in which case I think that buying above 23.3 again is the key level. If we get back up here, I think that this is probably the moment that I would take to be a buyer again. This is a level that has had kind of significant reaction on BTC all the way through this top range here. It's a really interesting level. We've had super strong reactions through this level. Each time that we've moved through this level, there's been a really strong reaction. So you can see here on the 25th, really strong reactions. Here on the breakdown on the 30th, strong reaction. Breakout on the 1st of Feb, strong. And then breakdown today on the 5th, strong. So we tend to move heavily through this region. And therefore, I think if you're going to look at being a buyer and kind of the overall bigger correction thought process does not play out, then this is the level to flip back, I think, which is, what, $600 higher? It's not really the end of the world. Then you've got other markets like Aave, for example, that I think are also warning points of the market and need to contribute to the bigger correction thought process, in that Aave had a really great range breakout here. So great consolidation range up in this region here, was doing a really good job of holding on to this and had a clean breakout, really great 12 hours, held on to it, looked like a perfect retest on the support region here, looked like a great flip, and now we're back inside this original range. Markets like this also contribute to the fact that I think that a lot of things like don't look fantastic down here. If we were dipping now into like fresh, if we were dipping now from Aave into the top of this, then I'd be like, yeah, shit, this is looking a lot better kind of market wide. When we're doing things like breaking back inside these ranges, again, it adds more weight from my perspective into we're not done here just yet. And then you've got stuff like Doge. And Doge has just been running this like 80 trend line underneath here. And so expectation is that Doge has to hold this, because this has just been the buyer presence all the way up. right? This has just been the buyer presence. Dips under here, bought up, everything fine. If Doge recovers above here again, I think you've got another good shot at trying to long. If the daily closes back above the trend line, then why not take a stab at longing Doge through here? Because again, your invalidation is pretty clear cut. You've also got a very simple trigger for kind of short side, or at least believing in a bigger correction. Let's check DXY. Yeah, so we'll take a quick look at the dollar because that kind of adds into the overall thought process at the moment. So the 12-hour on the dollar, from a bullish perspective, like bullish on crypto, you're basically hoping the dollar pulls what it did here. And this is huge slowdown in momentum continuation for like weeks and weeks all the way through here. 2 months of slowdown, nothing happening. You get one pop and then it's just continuation. And then you get this. Exactly the same, slowdown in momentum all the way down, RSI matching it, and then you get the pop. Ideally, you would be hoping that this just does this, right? It just continues down to fresh lows. That's the ideal case for crypto dip, not too horrendous, and then everything's fine again and we charge back up in the upside, right? That's the ideal scenario for us. And I think that is a likely outcome through here. I think that is still a situation that we could see. We have the continuation of the slowdown here on the daily. So you can see the fact the awesome oscillator is still continuing to slow despite being down here for this whole second leg journey. It's still slowing down. So that's a cause for concern. This level here, I suspect, is the kind of the flipping point. And I think the dollar will run into the 103.50s. And I think it will reject still. I still think that this market is destined for another lower leg through here. The reason that I think that is because of the weekly. And I think the weekly still has the potential to rotate again fully to the downside. I don't really like markets when they're heavily trending and we get a run like this on the RSI. Typically we end up in the extremes like we did down here for the dollar. And then this becomes the bounce point in the movement away. And so I would love to see the same thing for the dollar through here. So I think that moving back up towards the 103.50s, 103.70s would be the key level. And then hopefully a rejection from there, one leg lower, maybe getting down to the 100s again, and then potentially a far bigger concern in terms of kind of the risk markets when the dollar reaches those levels. Dollar bulls would tell you that this is actually a really good level for the dollar, given the fact that we are holding against the low, we swept the lows, we had a very strong weekly close above, and that this sets up for a really nice kind of reversal candle, or at least in the short term, providing some more upwards impulse to the dollar. So again, you combine that with the kind of the way that we see crypto right now in terms of some of these daily divergences, the slowdown of momentum, the weeks upon of upwards price action with very little pullback, certainly of any substance. I think that when you start to combine the two, things may make you a little bit more cautious around some of these regions. I was waiting for a monthly bed. Don't look at the monthlies. Don't look at the monthly chart, because the monthly chart, you just be like, you're at resistance now, right? So the monthly chart is just map out 2023 for you, because you just said you're at the monthly resistance zone now on BTC. Here's your range now at your low. And this is 2023. So that's it. If you look at the monthly, that's what we've got. Yeah, example with the 12-hour AO. How do you know when the AO is at 0? If it's resetting or if it continues down? Because I considered it as a reset and we created a fresh high. Yeah, we did. And I think that was the right thought process, especially under the current conditions. I think that was the right thought process, because Aave absolutely could have traded in exactly the same way that the AVAX trade or LTC trade in terms of bursting the upside. So I think you took it in the right way and you interpreted it correctly. It just didn't unfortunately play out in that instance. That's all. Lower time frame, everything's looking a little bit more interesting with the divergences down here, especially something like Doge. Like Doge is looking really interesting with the divergences. We know that it has to try and recover this trend line. This is where it wants to be trading above. And we're putting in this divergence all the way down here. So Doge looks relatively interesting at this point in time in terms of if I was looking at buying the dip, I think that I would definitely look at a market like Doge. It is definitely a kind of a more attractive and cleaner setup, I think, through this low region. ETH it's not as clean. You can't see the div structure isn't the same down here. So I think that's revealing where I would be putting my which markets I'd be putting my bids on, and that's just because it's a very easy criteria for a trade on Doge here, because The criteria is that this is the divergence structure down here. We know that by the close tonight, so the next 2.5 hours, we have to be trading back above the trend line. So that's your play. You're getting long in a region like this. You're looking at trading above the trend line before the daily close. If you get that, then Doge looks in a relatively decent position. You've bought below the trend line. And we know that historically that's been a relatively decent play for Doge. Kanto cool off. Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. Share your thoughts on the CRV div. This is fine. This is a little bit better because this high isn't a high. So this is fine. This is a lower high here. So that's okay. And then CRV is dipping into the region you would want it to hold. So I think what's easier with CRV is to keep an eye on it from the perspective of this top region here being the range and view it like this versus trying to apply the div structure to it, because this last high, even on the daily, obviously is still a kind of a lower high region here. So this is a little bit better. I prefer markets that look like this. So for now, I would just view it as a consolidation range up here. And whether or not we try and move to the bottom here and take out the lows, which obviously if BTC starts moving, that's what we're going to see on 93s. And then back inside the range, I think you can consider being long again. But this would probably be one of the better case scenarios, right? If we consolidate these top regions and let the dollar do its thing. If the dollar rallies and crypto just maintains its consolidation at the top of its rally, that's probably a relatively decent outcome overall, I would imagine. Man says look at ADA 4 hour. Like this would be the ideal horror market, basically. Like this div structure here is so awful. Everything about this looks hideous, which probably means that it ends up ripping to the dollar. but this is a horrible structure in terms of that reduction in momentum. Horrible structure. Yeah, Solar's kind of horrible also. Yeah, exactly. This whole one's it is not as bad. It's still got the triple high here, but yeah, it's just those highs there, nasty. And especially this candle here. So I think with Sol higher time frame, you probably got the loss of 23.90 as a significant one. I guess it translates on the lower time frame. Yeah, so somewhere around this hold up point. Yeah, so it's this kind of like chunk in here. Yeah, it doesn't Ling look the same in its upward grind? Yeah, exactly. And that's why we were talking about, do they break the structure? Do they become the AVAX? Do they become the LTC? Or do they just simply basically fuck up the next leg? Yeah. Do you remember when you said, why would anyone ever buy coin a few weeks ago? Yeah, but it's still true. Like, why would you? Like, sure, it's up a lot, but then so's crypto. Can we have a look at silver? We can, but it's pretty simple. Like, it's traded it's right into the weekly level now. Right, the monthly level's got a little bit more below. I think we go into the 2150s, 2175s. But I still think this is opportunity. I think if I have to choose for long or short, I'd say now is a better time to short. Do you agree? Yeah. For the majority of people, the best thing that you can do right now is just sit on your hands. Because you don't need to do anything right now. So you don't have to be long or short. You can just sit on your hands and appreciate the fact that the markets look more tired than they have done at any other point. And that it's fine to just sit on your hands and wait and then be a buyer lower down. For many people, that would be the easiest thing you can do. Trying to short into these for the last few weeks has really shown why that is not a good thing to be doing, because you just end up getting messed up out of your position multiple times. You end up being on the wrong side of the market. And so even now, yeah, sure, it might look juicy to try and capture every single move of this market and then want to plan for the short side too. I don't think the majority of people need to worry about that. The majority of people just need to basically like get some rest for a week, relax, right? Get some time away from the charts because it's been hectic. Let the correction happen, if it does, and then look at being a buyer again. What if your hands are full of alts? Then you're going to be put to the test, right, on how strong they are. What do you think about the SHIB PA with their event coming this month? I don't really care about the fucking SHIB event. Holy. Yeah, price action looks fine. Weekly is in a really good position here. Yeah, looks really good. Any retests back down here are probably good. Something like this would be nice. No problem, Tonic. No problem. Do you hold on to a great setup in these conditions if it's looking dicey but not convincingly invalidated? It depends. It depends on what position you're talking about. Is a great setup a long setup, and is it like from here, or are you long from a lot lower down and therefore you're concerned about a correction potentially taking away a lot of profit? But if you hold on, then you know things are going to look very good over the next 3 weeks. OP? Man, why is it like everybody's just coming with OP all of a sudden. Yeah, it's a great looking market. I think 240s look really attractive. I think a sweep of the 268s is another point to look for. 4 hour looks very good through here. 12 hour looks fine. 3 day is obviously super jacked up here. And the weekly is starting to get outrageous. But this is a price discovery market, so it feels slightly different than everything else. LDO? LDO's easy. LDO's easy. I'm at perfect head and shoulders on the 12 hour that's breaking down. Perfect. Perfect head and shoulders up here. Easiest TA I've ever done. I was waiting to put this one on Twitter. So I think as long as it's holding above 175s, it's fine here. As long as it's above 175s, you're fine. So it's just a trend line breakdown for now through here. I'll hold up around the 175s. I think this move was needed. I think this kind of clear out move was needed. The concern again about being here would be the fact that this is pushing down lower. So it's going to bring us onto here, which if this is a red daily, then this is going to start breaking through the 50, which is a slight concern. But we'd be looking for movement back above. But it is a slight concern that LDO is starting to show the signs of further impulse to the downside by breaking through some of the markers like this. DYDX, decent bounce. It's one of those situations, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah, like DYDX just bounced off the top of the highs here, the 270s. And then the top of the range is the 255s. So that's the area you would love to get back down to. It's one of those setups at the moment where it really doesn't matter. Like if your alt is bouncing strongly. Some of these markets also sold off a lot more strongly than BTC did, for example. Saying that your market is, or your alt has bounced strongly really doesn't really say much about the current situation. With DYDX, where are we? Is this today? Yes, this is today and down 15%. So it's not like it's, held up particularly well either. I could make that argument that it's not held up well either. So yeah, sure, it's strong in its bounce now. It's strong in its rally to this region. I suspect that this is probably a resistance pocket for it right now where we are. And if your alt's strong now, then it doesn't mean it's going to be strong if BTC shits the bed. If BTC has a flush down of those lows, then your alt's coming down with it, and at double the speed as well. Do you think Doge has enough in it to follow mass? Doge will always go on a run. And I think that's still true of this region, because we really haven't had the Doge run yet, right? We've really not had that rally that everybody starts FOMOing into Doge and talking about Doge, and Doge starts like ripping through shorts. Like we really haven't had that run. We looked as though maybe we were preparing for it this weekend, and everybody was talking about doggy weekend, but nah, it just didn't materialize. Ended up sweeping the highs, closing back below. And now challenging this trend line on the red day. I don't know if it will have the same path as Mask. It has done historically, but it fell out of whack with Mask as soon as Mask had that really strong day the other day and Doge didn't follow suit again. Yeah, any thoughts on FTM? Yeah, really strong market. Good correction, good pullback for FTM through this region as well. This is the sort of stuff you want to see. Everybody talking about the big gap that we've got up here, which I think makes sense given the fact that there's no real resistances along the way here. But I think that even though that I'm talking about a correction, and I feel relatively like bearish in my thought process about the correction, or that may be the way it's perceived, right? I still think that after the correction we go to fresh highs. So I want to make that clear at this point. I think that if there is a bigger correction here and there's a bigger flush out of some of the levels, then I think that after that we still will rally to fresh highs. I still think the higher time frames are in a really good position to sustain further upside, and so I would like to see that be the case. And I think FTM is a prime example of a market that you would be looking for a relatively aggressive upside return based on the fact this weekly looks so good through this region here. In terms of where we can look for pullbacks into, you're probably just looking at some of the clusters you can get now here, like the 48s and this breakout cluster that we had here on the daily. You're probably looking for a region like that we can try and get some bounce from. But you want to see these, you want to see the RSI pulled off the extremes anyway, because this market is ran way too hot. So you just want to see this pulled off the extremes, and then it gives it far more room to go again. It's like FTM does a really good job of pulling itself off the extremes, out of this horrendous region up here at the 89s, pulls it back down, and then goes on its rally. It really gets juicy from this point onwards. And so even from a bullish perspective, you should be really happy to see the RSI coming back in out of the extremes like this. Yeah, and this is a really good example of what we would love to see in the vast majority of markets. Okay, again, Slowdown in momentum across the highs. Everything looks as though it's cooling off, right? And it's going to get its bigger correction, and then bam, it hits you with this. That's what we would love to see on every other market. So we'd love to see on ETH and BTC. Is where it looks as though we're going to get the nice cool off in the markets, and then bam, we smash the upside. Yeah, and then where we're moving into now, is one of the stickier points for Fed. And we know that it's obviously heavily extended as well. This is a huge run up. Again, after this sort of expansive move here, I couldn't be a buyer at this point in time, certainly not into the weekly picture. I'd have to wait for a correction from here. A lot of ticker spam, because everyone's nervous about their coins, that's why. Everyone's nervous about their bags today. Ocean's good as well. Reset here. So you get the 12-hour reset, the 50. Get the daily, which is basically just pull back in again out of the extremes, and then looking at making another rotation. Looks pretty good. FXS. I want to see the 760s again. Still the same. Daily looks good. Daily looks as though it's not going to pull a FET. You've got this. You've got, again, the divergence across the highs here. You've got the slowdown in momentum on the Orso oscillator as well, but you're now starting to see impulse to the downside. So it looks as though it's not going to get that. The support's here. So we should see it hold up pretty much in this zone here, around the 990s. If it's going to try and cling on to this, otherwise it's a bigger correction. I think you're looking for the $9. Little cluster in here might give it some support. So from 910s down to the 855s, this little region in here. And if it loses that, then it's back down to the top of the range at 750s. Yeah, hook looks as though it's getting pretty juicy. 12 hour is really nice. Looks as though it can support another push. Looks like a good consolidation. Looks like it just wants to drive again. So yeah, really nice setup on hook. Been a very strong market. Ape, I've got so many weird lines I think drawn on Ape. Yeah. So Ape is like Ape's. What was that chart we looked at earlier that had the lower high? CRV. It's like that chart. Because this consolidation again is actually okay because there's no divergences present here. So there's actually no divergences present on the higher time frames for Ape, which makes it again slightly more attractive in terms of a market for potentially more upside. And I think targets for Ape are probably up towards the 760s if it gets another drive up through here. The daily coming back down towards the 50 level has always been a reactionary point for Ape. We can see here on the last major sell-off in mid-Jan, this marked the bottom before the drive up higher. And even the 3-day isn't massively extended either. Yeah, the narrative's exhausted. Now that's one problem that it's got. But higher time frame wise, it looks in a really good position. It's just whether or not it can continue with the same strength through here. Didn't manage to form that hourly div as well, which is a shame between these lows. It would have been really nice if it would have got the hourly div here. But still, decent move for the market so far. Link, any long potential? Same divergence as Doge on the 15-minute at the lows, so that's good. Hourly isn't too bad. This structure, again, is not nice. It's the one that couldn't break. It couldn't break the div structure. So I tried a long on this around this region here. Maybe even like later than this. Maybe like in this cluster here. Because when it sets up at the nice higher lows and it starts making its push again and you've got the div structure set up in the way that you have, then you're looking for that expansion. You're looking for that move the same as AVAX did. Just didn't materialize. Ended up just being a flop market. So now the problem is if it loses this low here at the 685s, then you've got a problem because the structure's shifted. Okay, so your structure's shifted here if you lose the low. So it's not an attractive market at all. Again, you can see the strength of the RSI 50 all the way through this rally. So from mid-January onwards, the first time we pull back into it, we've just been solidly holding around this 50 level. And it's just marked the bottom time and time again until we get another drive up. And we're now at the point where we've got potentially another crossover. We're going to have the Orso oscillator crossing over, which is going to be more pressure on the downside. And we're just hoping that Link survives the structure change and manages to show some momentum to recover and make the push up through here. But in terms of the long market, this would be pretty far down the list based on the last 12-hour candle. ILV, like loads of people talking about this. I don't know what account has put this on your radar. Game launching? Yeah, who cares? Who cares though? In my opinion, one of the best FA in the crypto gaming sector. That's such a like awful title to have though. Yeah, I think Lux does have the potential to keep running. I think the NFT stuff is still pretty hot running up to Blur. Yeah, I don't know. Sure, if the FA's good and like the game's good, fine. Can I know about ILV previously? But like, no one cares about crypto gaming. No one cares about it. It's the same old fucking story. No one gives a shit. No one gives a fuck? It's all shit. And even if it's not shit, no one's going to play it. Why would they? Like, the only people are going to play it are crypto natives. And everybody just circle jerks about how great it is, but it's just the same, it's the same fucking 50 people that are playing it. Thanks for putting me on to Renko. Really changed my style. Nice. The problem that I have with crypto gaming as a whole, unless you are like an independent that is doing something vastly different, the problem that I have with every single company and every single project is they're all dead the day that AAA titles decide to implement it. So if the day comes that Blizzard Activision say, you know what, we're going to start putting NFTs in games, they're all dead. They're all gone. Like, who cares about anything now? As soon as the AAA decides that they're going to do it, everything beneath that is gone. What company is going to break through because they used NFTs, play-to-earn concepts first? Who cares? The market doesn't care about that. All that matters is when the big boys pick it up. And when the big boys pick it up, it doesn't matter who did it first. That's not the way games work at all. Lots of indie games become huge. Yeah, because they're good fucking games that don't focus on the fact that they can sell you an NFT. That's why. There's not one single good crypto game. Like, yeah, of course small indie games make it because they're good games. The way that games work in this space is that everybody sits down, decide they're going to make a game, they focus on the NFT aspect of the game or the play-to-earn aspect of the game, and they forget the fact they're making a fucking game. So yeah, ILV, look, buy it here if you want to buy it. It's on a 4-hour reset, it looks fine. Range retest would be like 72s, 73s. Yeah, so like, coming back down here, this is a nice breakout from the range, but if the daily gets back down to here and you get back down to an RSI 50 reset, bam, you've got an easy one. Right, what would it take for you to admit that ILV is a good game? Look, I'm casting some assumptions here without having played it. I'm just speaking generally about gaming in the crypto space. I would expect to see a far bigger hype in non-crypto circles should ILV be something that was going to break barriers, which I haven't. What would it take to make me admit? Probably playing it. Narrative is narrative, play to earn is narrative. If it fits my long, I'll embrace it. Yeah, fine. And that's absolutely the way that you should be. Who cares about it all? Like, I don't care if any of the games are a success. I care about if the charts can make me money from being long on them. That's like the priority, right? So like when it comes down to trading, then yeah, you care about what the chart says, not what is behind this. So like Sand, we always speak about it's got fucking 12 active players, but yeah, it's still trading at a huge market cap and it still rallies really hard when it runs. So it doesn't really matter about what it is. And the same goes for anything in this list, not just from a gaming perspective. LTC's been dead for years, but it still pumps. Oh man, I haven't had a crypto gaming rant in a while. When, I like always this because this reads like I typed it. So when BTC does its move to 26, 28, 30 achieved, would you sell most of spot or retain some for reset? Just curious if you have a rough plan since you got solid entries on coins like FXS, Link, Sushi, etc. What percentage might you keep, or is it too early to tell? It's too early to tell. I think if we got a 30k retest on BTC, I think I would probably be pretty damn happy with the play overall and be scaling out for the vast majority of stuff. If we're to end up running this region, then, you know, shit, I don't think you can be disappointed with the run we've had. And then the other reason that I like getting rid of the majority of it at a point like this is because you can easily make the flip afterwards, right? So once you flip 30,000, then you can be a buyer again, because that's another very simple kind of weekly level. You just play off that. So if we get above the 30Ks, then, you know, be a buyer there and you'll be fine. Close it if we start getting back below 30s. Very simple play again. Yeah, hope you're recovering from the stomach flu. Yeah, today is the most normal I felt in a week, so that's good stuff. Yeah, the AI hype. And again, it doesn't matter if AI is going to be a success or it's not going to be a success. As long as the coins are pumping, then great. Everybody's happy. Worst thing you can do is fade the narrative and the direction. INJ, man. Atom Weekly looks good. I don't know why more people aren't talking about the Atom Weekly if they're talking about FTM. If it gets through the resistance at 16s, and this is a pretty easy one up to the mid-20s. But nobody's talking about Atom in the same regard. 12-hour looks very good here. What are they doing to Atom? So it reminds me of like when it broke down from this region. So the breakdown here and then just crawls back up and then ends up shooting for a high. Good reaction so far. Again, higher time frame is awkward, but in that position where is it going to show strength? an impulse like crazy? Is it just going to reject here and come back down for some sort of aggressive sweep or movement into this region here? It's less clear, but it always has been. Atom charts are stuff of nightmares anyway. Like this. They basically produce no clean levels the entire run, just chopping back and forth, whilst also grinding continually higher. Even this 15-minute price action, like what are they doing here? Yeah, worst charts to trade, but good spot bag. Yeah, agreed. How can you know the percentage of a move until the next long or short? You can't. We're just taking some educated guesses at where the next support regions are or the return to some of the breakout regions. So if we're looking at doing any retests or we're looking at sweeping some lows, for example, then we can begin to get an idea of what sort of percentage moves that's going to take. Now, we know that BTC is, what, 6% or so away from the lows at the moment, probably not even that anymore. And so if we get a 6% down move on BTC, then we're probably destined for at least a 10 to 12, 13% move on alts. And then some of the alts hitting into their key levels. And so we'll go back to Sushi just to continue and summarize that thought process finally here. Sushi's got a clean breakout level here at the 135s. And so we know that currently trading here and therefore a little bit more price action. Another 6% or so for Sushi, and we're down into a really nice daily breakout level that would be an interesting bid point. So we just start to put some thought process around percentages, but we don't know the exact ones for sure. Yeah, Matic going to lead if the majors behave. It's an interesting thought. Last high isn't a good one. So we can see here, this isn't an attractive high, and even on the RSI here through these highs locally, not an attractive one. But we did exactly the same through this region here before a decent correction. So off the high here, we went 12%, currently done 7, so a little bit more juice down here. Basically takes on like that link structure, and we just get that back and forth price action. But we have got another leg to the extended divergence here. A pullback would be down to the 111s would be nice, and then this is the key breakout here of the $1 region after this consolidation. So Matic's been pretty clean. Range here, breakout from the range, consolidation on top of the range, expansion. Any move back down here to the $1 in the event of a serious correction, I think would be a good opportunity. And then in terms of Matic leading the way, I think that the Matic BTC pair is really interesting through this region. So the weekly RSI is in a really good position here for this to try and challenge upside. And I think the chart is set up really nicely for that potential as well. So the fact the weekly RSI is back down at this 50, bouncing off the 50, and moving back towards this kind of key high region here of the 5500s, I think Matic is one to definitely keep an eye on, for sure. Yeah, good scam. Very good scam. Couldn't touch it here, but good scam. Be expecting retest down to 11.8s to hold, just in line with the way this has been trading, but potential for the triple bear div here on the lower time frames. So it might have potential to visit the 10s again. How much of your buy the correction thesis depend on equities? I don't think a lot of it is dependent on equities. I think the dollar rejection at the 103.50s to 70s will be important. You know, I would really like to see that area reject and coincide with a drop in crypto during that time. At least a good thing is with the ticker spam, we'll have nearly done everything. I think 1340s, just this cluster in here. This is where all the momentum came from. So you'd expect this region here to hold. But there's no levels on here, obviously, based on the way it's been trading. So I think 1360s, 1220s, somewhere in this zone here has got to be holding up. Nearly there. 12-hour RSI is not in a good position, especially with the crossover potential on the awesome oscillator as well. We always expect another drive down there, so I think looking for this zone is probably where we'd be going for. Can you chart your hairline? Jesus. BTC pumping, says chat. Yikes. Oh shit, it's gonna fucking rip now, look. It's gonna rip now. I said yikes on that. Get off it quick. Fuck. Save my short. Good bid position for Aave. Like we covered before, I think that you just got to wait until the reclaim of this. I don't think you should be doing anything under 88.50. I think 88.50 would be a rejection point on the bearish side from here. So I think that if we trade it into 88.50s, it's firstly going to be a bearish retest, and then if you get the bearish retest, then you're looking at shorting. If you want to be a buyer of Aave, I think you have to wait for it to be over this level again. It was the clear resistance. There's no point being long on this underneath this level. The only time you may want to take a shot on this ahead of that, is whether or not we sweep some of this area here at the low 70s. Aave at mid-range, good entry in my opinion. I disagree. I don't know why you'd want to long something that's just failed to break out of its range. Oh, long into the high? I didn't even know about that. I didn't even know why you'd bother. Plus Aave is always shit liquidity. So I think for BTC, we got 45 minutes until futures open. This is usually where we start to put in the moves that start to close some of the gap that we'll see. And that reversion, this here is the important level, 23.3. I think even if it squeezes everything into 23.3, I think this is still the important level that BTC has to be trading above. RSR? I don't think I've heard anybody talk about RSR in this entire run. It looks okay. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I changed my mind quickly. Fail breakout. Straight back down. Rejecting off the former resistance now. INJ. Actually holding support. So still holding the 360s. Yes, it's okay. You want to play anything tight on this though. Because if it starts unraveling, then it will get pretty nasty. But I think all you can do is just look for the clusters on this. Because there's nothing else really to trade from. Unless you're looking at the former highs at 272, I don't think there's a lot else you can trade from. I just literally be using all these clusters here. Like this one here that's held, and then if it fails and you're coming down to this one, which is going to be the daily level anyway. But I just be using these on the way down. For you got a market that looks like this, all you can do is you can just take these consolidation clusters, look where the momentum and the impulse came from, and then look at being a buyer into the retest. Ocean pumping now. Nice. Man, I love how quickly like chat, it's just shit. Okay, everything's starting to pop off now. Yeah, the hook is looking really nice through here. It's such a nice 12-hour attack for it as well. It just makes it so attractive when you see it trying to break out of a consolidation like this. It really does make it look attractive. Especially when you know there's fuck all above it. Yeah, I wondered whether XTZ would play into would have some joy with the NFT narrative. Again, the chart's like Atom is a fucking piece of shit to try and look at. All you know is there's a very clean level at 133. So that's basically all you can get from this, is you got really nice level through here. There's a big hold up level before the death of XTZ, and any run up you would be hoping would hit into this top level. So potentially you saw some juice in this to carry this to the top side, and the 3-day looks in a really good position. The weekly is going to look in a fine position, and the 4 hours coming back down to the RSI 50 level. Not much impulse from this. Guess hold up somewhere at the 115s. What is this Monday fist pump nonsense? Yeah, all the DeFi stuff. ARB airdrop. I think just flipping this for signups, I think just flipping 90s. Ideally, you see this come back down again. It's been another very clean market. Consolidate under the low, bounce back above. Get above the 72 resistance, consolidate above. Rip through the next one, like 2x in 4 days. Now just come back to the 90s again and make this test. Really clean. And then I think if the 90s are tagged and the market conditions are still good, then you can start it for the 190s twos. Rare. What's the point of charting rare? The liquidity is so dog shit. And I'm only saying that because I was going to buy rare at 9 cents. And the liquidity, holy... I sat here for about 6 hours trying to get fills on that. Yeah, the CRV, nice level and 12-hour RSI reset. Yeah. In one of the previous streams, someone asked you if you recommend any trading books. You answered none and recommended YouTube videos. Yeah, crypto cred. Just market buy. You can't market buy rare. The liquidity is so bad. Yeah, Unicia's terrible structure again. It's the ADA structure. But even worse, the fact it's doing it here. I'd say fail breakout as well, the 690s. Nah, you say our portfolios are $50, not 50 million. Nah, it's not that. It's like even smaller sizing is cooked on rare. It's cooked. I think we may as well stay on the lower time frames to watch the pre-futures rally. Any guests will be invited in the future? Yeah, we'll probably bring some more people on. I haven't really thought about it too much, to be honest. But yeah, I'm sure we'll bring some more people on. I haven't been back too long. Are we already done? Really, like, that's enough. We need guests now. Capo would be a good guest. I don't think so. I was thinking about Capo actually this weekend. It's such an unfortunate position to be in. To make your bias like so well known, and to then double down on it and create a tweet that is going to go down in our history of tweets in crypto Twitter. That's such an unfortunate like route to go down, because also it's, even if the situation changes now, and let's just say that we go to 12k from here, if we went to 12k from now on BTC, what do we got there to get down there? 45%. You could have made that in a day. if you just would have got long. Like, you just make that in a day. You long FET today. You've done it. Like, why? So far past the point of where, like, even if it happens now, you've just missed out on so much. I really hope the man has been just playing into the Twitter character of super bear and only bearish posting, but has actually been taking advantage of stuff. I genuinely hope that is the case. I'm so annoyed I rotated my FET profits into other stuff. Happens all the time. Classic. Yeah, Alt A, Alt B. Yeah, that is. What do you think about EXO saying the dollar's about to rip? Yeah, I think the dollar stands a pretty good shot at more upside. I think if it gets over 103.50s, 103.70s, then there's a far greater likelihood that we're in for a really bad time on crypto. I'm not necessarily sure, like, what I have from my own personal signals, it would be enough to give me a huge amount of confidence it's going to rip. Like, it's just going to take everything apart in its rampant upswing. But I certainly think there's definitely some more upside in the short term. Yeah, you probably had this "I told you" tweet already. You can't though. There is no "I told you so" in this situation. That's what I mean. It's like, this is some Twitter 101 for everybody. Right? Never get yourself in a position where you're so fucked that you can't even come back from it. You can't be in that position. And that's why it also is absolutely worthwhile to not give a shit about anybody's bias, your own bias. Just do what the market is doing. Just follow it. It's so simple. As I sat here and I said, I don't know, maybe like around Christmas, and I was like, fresh lows are incoming, everything looks fucking tragic, everything is terrible, it's all going to fresh lows, probably going to get 12k before long, it's a really bad situation. Start of January, things start ripping. First week of January, things are really ripping. I'm like, oh shit, okay, time to get long on everything, time to start buying. Time to start just 50x long in any dips that we get here. It's about how quickly you can adapt, drop any bias you have, and just move with the market. It's like, you cannot marry a bias and a thought process. It's so detrimental, and no one cares. No one even really cares. All that matters is whether or not you can make money from the environment or not. It's like when Hasaka tweeted about, everybody's like trying to understand, what is this? What does this rally mean? What are the wider implications of this rally? Who cares? Who cares? Your shitcoin's just done a 3x in a week. Who cares? So you flip bias on a stream. It was impressive how fast you change your view from new data. Yeah, because that's all that matters. I very much try and, again, if I play a part on Twitter, right? Like, depending on the market conditions, I'll play a part. So I'll play into that role of being the bear or being the bull. In reality, I don't really care about it. I only care about which direction is going to make me the most money in them. And if the data presented is different, like today, I sat here and I said, look, I think the market looks really tired. I think everything, is really lagging on these momentum indicators now. And I think it looks likely we get a larger correction than the one we've seen today. If that isn't the case and we're trading above 23.3 and the dollar rejects, then Christ, the amount of green buttons that I'm going to be hitting over the next 48 hours is going to be crazy. And that's what matters, is how quickly you can just be like, look, market moved in a different direction to what I thought. It's all just an idea in my head that I'm putting forward and presenting to everybody, again, based on the technicals. But if the technicals change, then I have to change with it. If the situation changes, it does something like an LTC where it pops out of that divergence structure, then I have to be willing to change and adapt. I can't just sit there and look for another bearish reason. I can't just sit there and just delete RSI off my chart and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put the 500 EMA on this and decide that it's still bearish below the 500 EMA. Said to himself in December, everything looks so shit that it probably pumps from here. Yeah, the classic scenario of when everything just looks so outrageously bad that it has to be good. That was pretty much it. Yeah, I did read some books. Like, I read some books, but yeah, the majority was just practice trading, learning, losing, winning. How you deal with waiting. Have other hobbies and interests and life outside of it, especially when you're swing trading or looking for positions that are bigger than just the short-term moves that you want to see here. I often find myself that it's kind of a very important kind of mental note that I have for myself, that when I find myself looking at the charts more and more frequently, especially on the lower time frames, that I'm probably entering more of a gambling mindset because of the environment than I am a well thought out trading approach. So even though the entries would still be taken on the basis of TA, sometimes I find myself like being really aggressive in terms of looking for entries, and I find that my chart consumption increases And so when I start to notice the fact that my chart consumption is increasing and I'm staring at lower time frames and I'm spending more time looking at charts, it's probably like conditioning by the market to make me want to be in that position, because I feel as though there's opportunity to be had, that the market's good, and I need to be involved on the very low time frames. And so that is an important marker that I have to step back. And do you think DXY makes a lower high or makes a higher high? We've covered off DXY for a long time, man. So I don't know what else I can say. I must have said 103.50s, I don't know, 5 times in this stream. In your experience, what time frame trading has given you the most reward? The higher time frames, so the swing trades, by far. I started off as a scalper, very low time frame, tick trading. So super low time frame, in and out the market, very agile, opportunity for maybe 1, 2, maybe on a good day 3 trades a day. And by far the biggest like mover of my portfolio and size overall is swing trading. You mentioned at the start of the stream, sit on your hands and do nothing, and Kobe also mentioned that most of us are fine and do not trade in Feb. Yeah, Kobe's playing on a famous tweet previously. I think it's from Loops, which is what did Loops say? Was it something like, some of you are all right, don't leverage trade next week? Something like that. So Kobe's just playing on a famous tweet, and the market was horrendous when Loops tweeted that as well. So Loops was perfect on the money with that. And when I say sit on your hands, yeah, I just think the majority of people, you don't need to catch a short, save your money. The tendency when we've had a really good run is to be where we've left off. We just keep on looking for the next thing, keep moving to the next coin, and what we do is like we overshoot the market. So we're super hyped up, we're super ready for longing any breakouts, getting ready for the next leg up, and we're looking on the 5-minute time frame for breakout points and positioning. And sometimes we overshoot the market, where the market just goes sideways, and we've ended up basically taking lots and lots of entries anticipating a breakout, and actually it's just been a sideways chop. And sometimes our own energy and impulse is to continue being involved, and the market has slowed down, but we haven't realized that, and we're still operating too fast. And I think that's probably a tendency for a lot of people at periods of time like this. So I don't think for a lot of people, especially at this point in the rally, I think you can be a little bit more patient and wait. Nobody here really needs to short anything. It's not really where the money's going to be made. You would be far better off saving your money, getting some rest, looking at the charts, mapping out some levels that you would like to see some corrections into, waiting to see what develops. And if the market decides it is going to run to the upside, instead of giving a downside correction, you should have some levels mapped out for when you can rejoin the market or look at getting involved again. Pretty easy. What's your leverage for swing trading? I don't usually need leverage for swing trading. I use either spot or a larger trading account for that. I was asking myself if a handle and cup is the same as a cup and handle. Pattern on what you're looking at here, I would ignore the pattern trading, especially from a cup and handle perspective. I would ignore very quickly and try and wipe that from your brain. How much longer are you going on for? 20 minutes. 19 minutes. We got futures open at 11, and then I'll round up after that. Not sure if you saw my message. Carver? Yeah, I know we chatted about this in the Haven a little bit, because it's one of those markets that's just got this like clear gap here. So you know that as soon as it starts to attack through this region, it should make this run up towards the 140s relatively sharpish. You would like this to hold, to be honest with you. The 96s holding would be a really good start for this. Higher time frames are good as well, because there's no divergence. So these are all lower highs here. So I think, you're just waiting for this to go. And I think probably playing into it is probably the easiest. So just play into it and just bag the like 27% on this, I think. I think that's the only one that you look at doing. Do you trade small cap lotteries and dexes? No. Do you keep an eye on active developers for projects? No. I'm just trying to answer as many questions with no as possible. Will you play the weekly RSI resets, wait for strength and get long? I think daily is probably the best to aim for here if we get a bigger correction. I think waiting for weeklies is probably too much. And a lot of alt charts, like Sushi is a good example, I think will come down on the weekly to the 50 if the daily does as well. So yeah, I think it's mainly like length of time that's gonna mess everybody up at the moment. Because everything's just been so rapid. The corrections have been rapid. It's been literally like 2 days of down and then immediately back up to fresh highs. And I just think that maybe this time is a little bit longer, certainly in the chop period in between. We'll see anyway. We'll see. Do silver? Yeah, we know silver's just into the weekly level. It's really easy. We're just into this weekly level. So I think we trade down to the 2170s, 2150s, somewhere down here. But realistically, this level should be holding, and the monthly is the same. So I think by the end of Feb, we should still be trading above the 22s. And as long as we are, everything's fine. This is a 40% rally. This is a 9% correction. Everything's fine. It's still a very clean and easy monthly chart. It should be holding this. So if the end of February comes and we start closing below this, warning signs. Yeah, this chart looks fine. There's not too much to say about a chart that looks like this, really. It had your correction today, had the RSI 50 retest. It's held for 5 days at this level. Horrendous rejection, straight back to the 50 level, pump straight again. If this is your flavor, then keep going for it. But the highs here would be the target. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do a ton more tickers. I've probably done fucking 50 tonight, so we're not going to do a ton more. It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. Magic 150 key support to stay above. And the only reason I'll comment on Magic is because I've sold. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a decent level. I think 145s to 150s. What was your best or favorite trade ever? I always answer the same stuff for that. It's always the Matic short setup. The one that changed everything is very different. And it's not really like a single trade. It was more, I don't know if it like changed everything. I think it was probably just a conviction bet that played off. My favorite ever trade was a Matic short setup where Matic died over the course of 12 hours, just puked off the face of the earth. And the trades that changed everything, we can't really like trades that changed everything, but yeah, it's always funny that it plays into the point I made about not giving a shit about what anything does and not caring about your own thoughts and process. But the trade idea that I had that did the most for my portfolio, there were two major things. Number one was being in NFTs very early. So I had quite a lot of exposure to a lot of significant NFT projects at a very early stage, like way before the majority of kind of our crypto Twitter circles began. So I was very well positioned for the NFT run. And the other one was I was incredibly well positioned and substantially positioned in a lot of gaming projects prior to the big runs. So I had some pretty huge exposure in some things prior to the major bull run on gaming tokens. So despite the fact I speak about them with such venom now, it's always interesting. It was one of my biggest kind of swing play bets that I've ever put on, and paid off significantly. Is that why you pumped Alice to 40? Yeah, I think it's when I tweeted Alice was going to 30, and then I think that was pretty much the Pico top. Yeah, my best trade was the AXS trade at 110, and you closed it at 17. I held to 40. You said you knew you'd regret it and keep it open. Yeah, I saw that on my Twitter the other week, that position. It would have been a monster. It would have been a monster. Yeah, I remember you tweeting asking about gaming projects and saying you were going to rotate to that. Yeah, your sand long was insane. Yeah, I was very low down on sand. Yeah, so what NFT marketplace alts you like? I think Lux is probably the easiest exposure, and the next two you could probably look at as well. TRB short was a very good short as well. Yeah, best trader was ALCX, 500k of that, and boom, you're a millionaire in a couple of months. I think 100k is probably worth about, I don't know, $6 now. You show the Matic short. Christ. Is it fine? What's the furthest dated Matic? It was on FTX, so it must have been Kraken. Oh, Binance Spot, of course. Yeah, it was this one. Yeah, so I caught this pretty much at the top. It got obliterated, and do you know, weirdly, I was tidying up my Telegram because I never use it, and so I was tidying it up this weekend, and there's a message that I sent to Sam on this night, because this all happened on the Daily Open. And it's a message I sent to Sam to say, I need to exit this position, and there's nothing in the order books. There is nothing. There are no orders to allow me to exit this position. Like, basically get something there so I can get the fuck out of this. Because we're like trading down here, right, when I'm messaging. And I'm like, get me out of this right now, but I can't close the position because the order book's dead. So yeah, that was our one and only message on Telegram where he responded to say, sorry, should be fixed now. Yeah. Sounds suspicious. Yeah, basically browser lag. Yeah. Why did it die? I can't remember. There's some FUD or something about it, but I remember like once this had happened, there's some like amazing like Telegram shots from the Matic channel when this happened. It was basically like the devs had left and it was just all a rug pull, and yeah, it was, yeah. Yes, that was a big trade. That was a really good one. It's only because of the full story I like it. Plus, as I said, it was just one of those wild playouts. It was, yeah, it did minus 73% basically in a day. All right. Predictions open. It's time. The betting is live. We're ready to go. Everybody ready to feel something? Been sitting here getting charts and information and trading advice, psychology advice, and now the real show begins. So, a reminder for everybody that's new, you are betting on the first 1 minute candle of the NASDAQ Open. So that's what we're betting on here, the first 1 minute candle of the NASDAQ. You'll be choosing red or green. Obviously, use your common sense. It's not going to match my color palette on the charts. Here's your overview. Here's the NASDAQ on the daily, NASDAQ on the 4 hour, on the hourly, the 15 minute, the 5 minute, and lastly, the 1 minute. You're going to be using your channel points in order to place your bet. You get channel points for contributing, which enables you to play this incredible game with huge prizes. Of course, as always, as many people have alluded to already in the chat today, if you get the answer incorrect, it's a trading curse placed upon you for 1 week. A 1 week trading curse. No correct decisions. You think that the dip is over. You go into your usual 10 alt positions. You just long on everything again. You saw a few tweets as well from the bulls who've been saying, it's happened again. The bears are going to be sidelined for the next leg higher. And then bam, minus 20%, 3 minutes. Everything. You're running on cross margin. One position gets liquidated. Next position. It's like a knock-on effect. Chain reaction of liquidations rippling through the account. Get the answer correct. The exact opposite. You will get the absolute pico bottom. Probably just through sheer luck. Like an epiphany. You just long something beginning with D. And you get the absolute bottom of Doge. It just comes to you in a hazy dream as you're sat at your laptop. Yeah, and the girl will text you too. You're right. Everything. Dreams come true. All you have to do is predict the direction of a 1 minute candle. It's that easy to realize your full potential. Just win a coin toss on a candle. Now the other thing is, if you can cast a bet, and the fear is now coursing through your body, and you're seizing up, and you think, I can't do it because I don't want the curse, you automatically get the curse for being a pussy. So if you have the ability to place a bet and you choose not to, auto curse. They're the rules. They're the rules. You cannot sit on the sidelines. You know that people who are sidelined, they get the piss taken out of them all the time. Just here, we have the power to throw the curse down too. That's all. All right. Good luck, everybody. I will see you on the other side. It's over. It's all over. Biggest bull trap I've ever seen. 71% of voters? Oh, good lord. Picking red? Man, what happened here? I feel like I've been scammed, given away. Hidden Pigeon, right again? 250k bet? 1 million total channel points? I've got to give over? I counter traded, chat. Smartest money in crypto here. The smartest money. You don't ever counter trade them. I don't know, man. This seems like a lot to pay out. I don't know about this. Oof. Alright. Congratulations. Congratulations. We have to wire some more funds in. Do another raise. Congratulations, Bears. Initial point offer. What a shame it's come to this, though, huh? Oh, good lord. Is Biden okay? Something's got to be going on here. Oh, God. What do you mean, zoom out? This tells me everything I need to see. Have you not seen this? It's the balloon. It could be mapping the same trajectory that it took back to Earth, huh? Off screen again? I'm going to have to zoom out now, huh? Yeah, BTC barely moving. Listen, we say this every week, okay? Crypto is down today. Alright? Crypto is down. So just because it hasn't moved in the 4 minutes that the NASDAQ's been open, we're already down big today. Alright. So a big thank you to everybody for joining me. Thank you for being here for yet another Sunday evening stream. What's this week looking like? Yeah, this week's good. This week's really good. It will be possibly a Tuesday or a Friday. It will be one of the two, Tuesday or Friday. More than likely it will be a Friday stream. So we'll catch up on the week action and then just before the weekend, and then we'll catch back up for the Sunday overview heading into the fresh week. But a huge thank you as always for everybody for being here. Big thank you to the boys with the gifted subs as well tonight. Very kind. Big thank you to all the subs and the follows, of course, as well. And for chat, for participating. Wonderful, as always, to have all your questions, comments, memes. It's always appreciated. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I hope the week starts off positively for you. I hope there's lots of money to be made this week. And just keep in mind that kind of mentality we have going around at the moment about dips being impossible and bears being sidelined, and just be aware of that as we head into an interesting week with the dollar potentially being the king of the markets and everything else just following in its footsteps, or should I say going the opposite way to the direction the dollar is heading. But everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend again. Thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure, and see you next week.